General Mkhwanazi is going to start his testimony tomorrow, and so much has already happened in the media, in the courts of South Africa, on social media, and all of this has been a build-up to this moment. But there's potential for confusion, there's potential for misdirection, and we have to make sure we have maximum focus on what matters. From the 6th of July up until this day, the 16th of September, when I'm recording this, we've now come to understand, before the committee even happened, we've come to understand that certain individuals and certain events which played out in public over the last few years have been involved or have been connected to illegal and corrupt activities across various sectors in South Africa. And as such, it's valuable to think through who are the key people who need to appear before the commission, before the ad hoc committee, from a public perspective, from a media perspective, from a social media perspective. Because what's going to happen now is that various elites are going to start picking who they think should come through, trying to manage the conversation and trying to manufacture consent, which is to manufacture the public outcome and opinion which they desire. Why? Because they don't want Nepal. They don't want to be any part of that kind of drama, pandemonium, and commotion. So even now, people have been rushing to media houses, trying to play the game of misdirection, poisoning the well, and trying to actually manufacture perceptions and doubt in ways that are very obvious when you think about it. And the latest example of this was this gentleman, Serge Kabong, who went to the Clement Manyatela show. I'll give some comments on him at a later stage. But that was another bizarre interview, and we've seen a few of those bizarre interviews over the last few weeks and months where people have been. Brown Mkhwanazi did an interview on SABC. It was scrubbed from the internet. We saw, various people trying to explain Godfrey Lebia, trying to explain Shadrach Sibia, trying to explain. And we've seen a variety of those type of, trying to remix history and shift and divert the public attention and opinion, which have been a bit shady. So let's think about what we know so far and what the dream list is in terms of witness testimonies and what we should be paying attention to. So far, we know that some of the public assassinations which have occurred in South Africa have been linked to this very same network of people. There is a Hoshkari syndicate of massive proportions which has been implicated in various shenanigans in South Africa, but also implicated in the deaths of several people. So before we go further, I think it's important for us to pay attention to who's lost their lives, because we mustn't forget that this is very serious stuff, and people have lost their lives as a result of the conduct of these particular organizations, entities, and individuals, whoever they may be, right? So welcome to this episode. In this episode, I will try to go over some of the key names who I think have something to offer to clarify to the Hoshkari behavior which is happening in South Africa, because I believe that when the ball gets rolling, when mainstream media starts rushing in, and all of the journalists who have not been telling us who Brown Mkhwanazi is, who've not been able to give us a picture of Morgan Maumela, for example, all of those voices will be coming to rush in to this particular topic. I'm convinced that this is the biggest story this year in South Africa in 2025 that has implications that will potentially affect some very senior politicians and others if we get to the bottom of the story. If it's managed, if it's manufactured, we will never get to the bottom of the story. All of the conduct will continue and it will be much ado about nothing. So let's go back to the people who've lost their lives and just go over that list so that we don't lose focus of that. Number one, Babita Deokaran. She was killed for blocking corrupt payments to several companies, right, which were trying to fleece and had fleeced the Tembisa hospital. She was assassinated. An array of bullets went into her body from an AK-47, several AK-47s. Then we had DJ Somebody and 2 security guards. They were killed in what apparently seems to be a nightclub industry dispute, which links back to some of the people who have a case to answer. Then you have DJ Vintos, also killed for a nightclub industry dispute. And I'm going to throw in a name here that I don't think you've considered as part of a nightclub industry dispute. You've considered him potentially as being somebody who was just killed because of an issue relating to his former lover. I'm going to put in here AKA Kenan Forbes. Why do I say this? I say this because something odd happened once upon a time when the trial of the assassins was going down. I don't know if you picked it up. The father of AKA did not want to shake Bheki hand in court. He shook General Mkhwanazi's hand, but he would not shake AKA's father's hand. And then when this issue broke out, one of the things that General Sibiya was talking about when he was speaking to journalists was, I'm the one who did this up in the AKA case. I'm the one who pushed the AKA case. I'm the one. And then it just felt like it was unrelated because General Mkhwanazi had not mentioned AKA. But I think that we should add his name here because he's an entertainer. He's somebody who would have known people within various nightclubs, and actually his murder may be linked to this based on the various reactions and his insertion into the conversation and what I just mentioned. So we've got Don Tindleni, who was identified as a businessman. His business is not actually known. And if you know what business Don Tindleni was in, please tell us in the comment section. And then you've got, he was killed. You've got Aman Swat, shot 23 times, if I'm not mistaken. Bullets riddled through his body because he was assumed to be a whistleblower in the Transnet tender. Then you've got Mpo Mafole, who was auditing 2 massive contracts in Ekhuruleni. He was auditing the toilets and waste contracts and a vending contract. These 2 contracts were worth 4 billion rands. He was killed outside Kempton Park on the 30th of June, 2025. Then you've got Simnigiwe Mapani, who was murdered in Germiston on the 8th of December 23 when investigating the city's chemical toilets and waste collection contracts. These tenders were valued at about 1.8 billion. The media will tell you about these contracts. They'll never tell you who was supposed to get the contract until it's years later. We need answers on that. You know, there have been also some murders which occurred. You remember the cops who were found in the Henops River, 3 police officers. I think that is interconnected to everything that has been playing out. The same syndicate or group of people has been implicated in attempted murders as well. The key names that have been mentioned in the reporting over the last few months are the following. Joe Sibanyoni. There was an attempted hit on him, and this is potentially due to a taxi industry dispute somewhere there in Tshwane. Then you've got DJ Vetis. There was an attempted assassination on his life, potentially due to an industry dispute within the nightclub sector. Then there was Tebogo Tobejane, who was dating and then broke up with Vusimuzi Matlala. So this could have been a romantic and a business dispute. Then you've got the attempted murder of Kagiso Lerutla. He was the Ekhuruleni municipality's chief financial officer. He was also shot at while driving in Germiston on the 15th of September 2023. And as CFO, he was the ultimate authority on the audits which were happening in Ekhuruleni. From these assassinations and attempted assassinations, we can ascertain that there's a group of individuals who are using violence and were using violence to get government contracts, to silence whistleblowers, and particularly the people in the finance departments who had the power and agency to block their payments and impede their good time. These people also seem to have been heavily involved in the underworld and in particular in the nightclub industry. These nightclubs of Johannesburg are notorious for being part of the money laundering space, for being part of the drug distribution in South Africa. It's commonly known, and I don't think it's controversial that these things are happening. Sometimes nightclubs emerge in nowhere, and then all of a sudden, all of the blessers, all of the big guys are going to buy bottles there. Hoshkari behavior is at an all-time high. Then that nightclub closes. Then it reopens somewhere else, and then they continue the cycle. But they always want you to know that the money that is being spent there is extensive because the bills always get posted on social media so that we know big ballers are spending $500,000 here on bottles, etc., etc. I've never believed it. I've never been convinced that all of that was valid and legitimate. I think that there's a big washing machine that is operating within those nightclubs. So having considered all of this and all of the things I've mentioned, we need to then consider what would be the dream team of people to appear in front of the commission, the ad hoc committee, to explain the various issues which have unfolded in South Africa where their names have been implicated or mentioned. I'm going to give you the dream team. Let's start with the politicians. These are the politicians whose names are of interest and whose names can provide some clarity on the relationships that they have with the characters in all of these mshigashigas and characters in the underworld. I'm not saying they're guilty, right? For legal purposes, I have to be very clear, but their names have come up quite often, and I think they have things that they need to clarify and answer. So number one, former Police Minister Bheki Cele. He needs to explain why there is a person who's awaiting trial for attempted murder who claims to have a relationship with him, a business relationship. He needs to explain his relationship with Vusi Matlala. He needs to explain what is the nature of their relationship, whether he had anything to do with the contract that Vusi Matlala won, why he was meeting with Vusi Matlala at a penthouse in Pretoria and also at a penthouse or at some house there at Zimbali Lodge. He needs to explain and break it down. Bheki Cele is on the list. Senzo Mkhunu. From the reporting and from the allegations, he seems to have a relationship with Vusi Matlala, with Kagiso Molefe, as well as with Brown Mkhotsi. He needs to break those things down. I saw him at the ANC event. He was busy hitting his head like this. I don't know if you saw that clip. That stress, I think he needs to be de-stressed at the commission, at the ad hoc committee. He needs to explain. And he needs to be aware that the receipts are out there. The receipts are out there. What has been shared is only a slice, I think, of the cake, which is available. So he has a story to tell. He needs to explain. Kenny Kunene, he needs to explain his relationship with Kagiso Molefe. We still don't buy the explanation of why he was at that mansion which seems to have been hijacked in and of itself, and his relationship with various characters in the underworld, Sage Kabon, all of these people. He needs to break it down. Dayton McKenzie, the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, he volunteered with his own mouth that he has key information about the workings of the underworld. We know that he in his past life was a member of the Numbers Gang. He was participating in all kinds of criminal activities, and he has admitted as much. He has a relationship with Kenny Kunene. He volunteered with his own mlomo, opened his mouth and said, "Don't ask me, or if they call me, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know." That came out of his own mouth. I think they should take him up on it because of his past life and because of his connections and seemingly friends and buddies. Right. Then there's this character who is a politician, Benjani Chauke. Benjani has worked as an advisor to the president. He has worked as a campaign coordinator or something for the president during the CR17 campaign, the CR 2022 campaign. He has campaigned for top 7 leadership positions in the ANC. Therefore, he qualifies as a politician. He has been reported to have a close relationship with Morgan Maumela. He needs to come and break down all of the things that have been said about him. Are you a fixer? Are you a mixer? What's happening? Are you the gin or are you the tonic, Baba? We need to explain. We need to get answers from you. Then there is Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa. He has to also go to the commission. He went to the last one, the Zondo commission, and it was all buddy. Zondo there was filling sentences for him, etc. Maybe he'll get the same treatment if he were to go. He's the uncle through marriage of Morgan Maumela. He's also the person who has hired and worked with Benjani Chauke. He hired Bheki Cele as his minister. He hired Senzo Mkhunu as his minister. He's overseen these particular individuals who have been implicated in this. I don't think that he will be called to this commission, in my opinion. But I actually think he should be called to give his understanding of the operations, the failures, the successes of these people who are mostly under the leadership of his political party and appear to have relationships with him. And Prince Mashele actually was saying much more than what I'm saying here, saying that Senzo Mkhunu is the fixer. He is the fall guy for President Ramaphosa. So he may have to come and explain all of that in person at close range. I think if he were to come through and explain his relationship with Morgan Maumela, with Mboneni Maumela, she must come also and explain her relationship, her business dealings with her son. That is somebody I think is important also to add to the list. Then there are the police officers. There are some police officers who need to be on the witness stand. Noma kanjani, we khatalam, ngeke unga explain relationship. What a horrible song. Sorry to Brenda Fassie, but you get what I'm trying to say. Noma kanjani, there's some police officers who need to be on the witness stand, whether they're retired or whether they're active. Lieutenant Shadrack Sibia, he needs to explain why he was so, ravenous for the dockets. Why were you so, what's the word that I'm looking for? Why did you have such an affinity for the dockets? Why did you have such a proclivity for the dockets, the 121 dockets? Why did you go to the extent of defying the orders of your direct superior to get a hold of those dockets and put them on your desk? Not only that, what is the relationship that you have with Katiso Molefe? What is the relationship that you have with Vusi Matlala? What is the relationship you have with Brown Mkhwanazi? Why were you so eager to disband the political killings task team? He has to explain. He has to also explain all of his, narratives about AKA and others. So he has to explain. Godfrey Lebia, he also has to explain. He's retired. He sent the Hawks to intervene with the arrest of Katiso Molefe in December in 2024. He's explained to the media. I think he has to explain under oath. I didn't buy the story when he explained to the media. I think that there's more that he has to sell there in order for us to buy that story. Then there's that individual, Michael Pule, who's currently on trial for murder. He's been charged with Katiso Molefe. He is somebody who worked as a senior detective for Gauteng in the South African police, service. He needs to give clarity on how he became a hitman for a Hoshkari grandfather. And he needs to explain to what extent this is going on within the South African policing services. Maybe he can be given a plea. I don't think so. But if I could get him on the stand, I would get him on the stand. He's somebody who has to explain. Then this guy is not a police officer, but I think he has a good story to tell in the ANC language. Paul O'Sullivan, you have a good story to tell, my man. He has been very vocal on various media platforms, and he seemed to have a strong view on the various issues of policing. He claimed to have evidence of malfeasance by, General Nhlanhla by Mkhwanazi. He even accused them of being criminals. He's gone surprisingly silent in the last weeks. We miss you, Manelo. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you, Paul? Mr. Paul O'Sullivan. What a beautiful name. Paul O'Sullivan tells no lies. Please come through and tell no lies to the commission and to the Adhoc Committee. Paul O'Sullivan is not a police officer, but he was one prior to getting into his second career, and there was some stuff that happened there. I think he was pushed out, etc. He's currently a forensic something or the other, right? He's got a firm that does forensic something or the other. I think they should call him in. He was so keen to speak to the media. He was so keen to speak to the media, making a variety of allegations, even on the 6th of July, on day one. So at this point, he can't say he has nothing to say. He has a lot to say. He said a lot. So why not say it under oath and bring your evidence? Show us all the paperwork that you said you had on Biz News and other platforms. Let's see it, fam. Let's see it. We miss you, Manelo. Where are you? That's for you, Paul O'Sullivan. We miss you, man. You were so vocal. Dropping files. No receipts, just files. Just trust me, bro vibes. But you have a unique opportunity. A unique opportunity. One that I don't think you can hang up on. A unique opportunity. Go to the commission. Tell Nhlanhla what you know. Go to the Adhoc Committee. Tell them what you know. Tell them. So that's somebody who's not a cop currently, but I think has a lot to offer in that cop basket. Then there are the Hoshkari fathers. These are the names of the men whose names have been coming up left, right, and center in the fiasco that Mkhwanazi has unfolded. And they need to be called in, I think, to get to the bottom of everything by somebody, whether it's the Adhoc Committee or the commission. Somebody has to call these people in. They are people of interest. Number one, Hangwani Morgan Maumela. He who we have no real good picture of. We just have a side profile and the AI picture that I made. He received billions in payments from the Gauteng Department of Health. He seems to be connected to Vusi Matlala quite intimately. The meeting between Pekicele and Matlala occurred at his home. This other guy was saying that he knows him, he talked to him all the time. I wish Clement had asked him about Morgan, because Serge Kabon said, I know Morgan, these are my friends. I would have, Morgan? You know Morgan? The Morgan? Maumela? He whose name is not mentioned that much? He whose picture we don't even have? That guy? You know that chap, that fellow, that individual? Tell me more. What business relationship do you have with Morgan Maumela? Have you been to his homes? How many homes does he have? What kind of cars does he have? What is his business? What role did you play in the business that you have with this guy? What is his relationship with Vusi Matlala? Why is he so evasive? Why can he not be found anywhere? I definitely would have asked. Clement gave him a soft interview. That was a very soft interview. He was even poisoning the well. Hey, no, Tebogo is on drugs. So what? So what? You know, if somebody tried to kill her, the fact whether she's taken drugs or has a drug problem is irrelevant to the information that she's about to give us. She can still give us quality information about Vusi Matlala, about Katiso Molefe, about all of the shenanigans which have been happening, who killed Papita. It doesn't matter whether she smoked a line or not. There used to be that song between Rock and Wycliffe, very old song. It doesn't matter. But did you know that Tebogo takes drugs? It doesn't matter. You were trying to poison the well and we see through you. We see through you. It doesn't matter. Even if you tell us that she was dunusing all over South Africa, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. It's not pertinent or salient or germane to what she has to produce in terms of her knowledge and information on the shenanigans and the workings of the Hoshkari syndicate that has currently been implicated in all of this. We don't care where she got her BBL, what flavor of Turkish delight she is. We are uninterested. What we want to know is what she knows about the syndicate. So that was a very weird interview. I also would have asked him, what business is he in? How is he a GBV activist? There's a lot that happened in that interview that doesn't make any sense. I don't think that Madala is a GBV activist. He needs to explain why he's so close to cops and all of that. There's a lot that he needs to tell, in a commission setting. But I'm jumping the gun. Katiso Molefe, we need that guy. I don't know how you deal with this issue of people who are currently undergoing trial, etc., but they need to go somewhere and explain. He's somebody who's accused of being the paymaster for various murders and who has been pursuing massive tenders for the airport in Velkom. So he's a guy who's been playing both sides of the Hoshkari game, the violence as well as the contractual benefication. Then you've got Vusi Matlala, somebody who aimed for the moon and missed, somebody who really got everybody collapsed because of his Hoshkari Maima. If this guy and his, his Bonnie and Clyde situation, who's Bonnie? Bonnie's the girl, right? His new Bonnie, because he's got many women who are associated with him. If he had just let Tebogo Tobojane go, maybe none of this would have happened. Because a lot of the information was found on her phone. And that's where he made a mistake. And when they got arrested, because of attempting to kill her, more information was found on his phone, which then closed gaps that were existing in the investigating team's minds. So he has a lot to explain, Vusi Matlala. He's tender of 360 million with the police. His company had no experience in healthcare services. Why the guns which have been involved in all of these murders are being found at his company's offices. Vusi Matlala, all of these people have been called businessmen. I strongly object to the use of that label. Even yesterday I was hearing, no, businessmen, this guy's guys, let's find a new label for these Hoshkari dons. These Hoshkari dons. Let's find a new name for the kind of work that they're involved in. Then I think another person who needs to appear is Edwin Sodi. He has a relationship with Vusi Matlala and has extensive knowledge of government contracts and Hoshkari behavior in general. Their Hoshkari members have been spotted having parties on yachts, etc., They seem to get along quite well. I think he's somebody who would provide key information on Morgan Maumela and the happenings in nightclubs in Johannesburg as somebody who owns various nightclubs in Johannesburg and I think Cape Town. I think, if you don't ask Edwin Sodi to come break it down, he's an honest guy as well. He'll tell you, no, I was paying this guy, I gave that guy money, blah, 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 it was for the party, etc., Get Edwin Sodi on the witness list. Please get, I know they won't get him. I know some of these people are not going to appear. Then there are middlemen who I think are important to also have appear. You've got Malcolm X, the local version, not the international version, not the Malcolm X we know and love. There's a Malcolm X local variety here, the Chakalaka edition or the Acha version of Malcolm X. Anyway, he's the one who said he called Godfrey Lebeya. He said he's a super consultant. He was explaining this to Clement Manyatela and others. that whole story didn't add up. He needs to go and explain his story. So he needs to explain. Then you've got Brown Mkhwanazi, who was claiming that he's the one who caught Thabo Bester, etc., but also admitted in an interview that he had access to police documents, was communicating with the police minister. He needs to explain. He has been accused of receiving money from Vusi Matlala. He said he was going to explain on the appropriate forum. Brown Mkhwanazi, they should not make his interview secret. His identity is already known. I hope that they don't try to bury, because he's one of the key witnesses who needs to explain everything, adduce his phone, etc. Then Serge Kabone, he needs to explain. He seems to have key information. He has heard a lot with his lebes there. He has heard a lot from a lot of people. He seems to be in business with these people. He knows these people. Please lend us your ears, Mr. Kabone, and let us know what you have heard and what you know. Really. Now, I don't think the current police minister has anything to offer in respect to these allegations. I think the deputy ministers have something to offer, and some of them are very senior politicians. Kasal Matale, for example, somebody who has been in the game for a very long time and may be able to provide some information on the nature and extent of the corruption in municipalities and government. He won't. I don't think he should be called in at all even. I think we should focus on the people that I've mentioned. I think we must also be mindful, and this is the reason I'm doing this episode. We must be mindful that there will be attempts to make as much of what is said classified, off camera, and to manage how many people are called and how extensive this whole investigation is. And the reason is obvious: to protect senior politicians. South Africa is in a very volatile space politically. President Ramaphosa is vulnerable. We all know that the Phala criminals are being tried right now for stealing the money that came into the country illegally, and the owner of the money has said that, look, I wasn't really in ownership of it because the transaction was not perfected, etc. We saw what the Reserve Bank said. We've seen that people have been pardoned for issues pertaining to the Phala matter. Wally Rude, the general who was involved in the investigation, he has, he's back. He's head of the presidential security team, etc. So things are vulnerable, and not only at the presidential level, and I didn't even give much clarification why things are vulnerable at the presidential level. The reason why is because we know that the ANC is in trouble for local government elections. We know that there are contenders on the left of the ANC who are ready to push out President Ramaphosa and try to resuscitate a new left with the ANC potentially. And they don't want anything to do with the Ramaphosa faction, which is really a pro-market, pro-privatization faction, which has benefited. Some of the biggest beneficiaries of the Ramaphosa faction are Patrice Motsepe, Johan Rupert, and many people in business, not necessarily the streets or the public, right? So because of the vulnerabilities which exist within the GNU, electorally in the local government elections and going to 2029, and the fact that they are infighting within the ANC, not evident, but something that is happening because people are vying to take over from President Ramaphosa. The party is not in a stable position. All of this is to say that there will be attempts to try to protect key people, key individuals, so that they can continue to hold the very fragile GNU in shape. And that's why the DA and others have not been as vocal about the scandal as they typically would be. But in as much as that is happening, I think the public deserves answers. And the public should not have those answers omitted, concealed, or diluted for the sake of protecting the careers of individual politicians. That would be unfair to the public, which has been victims of drug crime, gang crime, gun violence, as well as corruption in municipalities and state-owned enterprises. When money is stolen from hospitals, real people die. When money is stolen from education departments, real children don't get the education they deserve. And sometimes they die in those toilets as well. So there are people who have died and who've been hurt and injured and adversely affected by this hoshkari behavior. It's not a joke. These monies that end up being spent on Turkish delights and BBLs and all of that, these are real monies that taxpayers paid and they've been deprived of. Water is running out in various places because of poor maintenance, right? We are already seeing that. Electricity is overly expensive because massive looting has happened in Mpumalanga and within the supply chains of Eskom. There have been so many variations and deviations in the expenditure there. So all of this is to say it's important for the public, when something comes of this magnitude, for them to get the answers they deserve, regardless of what the political implications may be. These politicians, when they were doing whatever they were doing, they were aware that if they get caught, all hell will break loose. So it's not anybody's obligation to deliver heaven to them. It's not anybody's obligation to do that. So we have to stay alert, and we must take time to discuss the issues, the testimonies, the omissions, and the various attempts to manage and manufacture public consent. We must do that. I will try to do my best to post reactions and reflections throughout this whole period of commissions and ad hoc committee presentations. And I will try to also, because there's more happening than just this, to separate the episodes about the Mkhwanazi matter and other regular episodes so that I can, keep providing analysis and reaction to other real world events that are happening. There's a lot. Expect a Pala episode. Expect some other episodes coming up in later days. So on some days you may be lucky. I'll post 2 episodes if everything happens according to plan. But that's the dream list of witnesses. I don't know if you have your own list. Let's have a conversation in the comments. I'll catch you there.